God wills I'll go. How many times you get up? You're going to jump in a car. It only takes you half an hour. If it's a horse and buggy day, it takes a day to do it. Now you're doing it. The biggest enemy some of us have is our automobiles. I'm getting more stingy about my time. Maybe I don't have much left. I'd like another 2 years to write two very interesting books. But what about the time God gives us? We don't think about that. So I'm just telling you what David was sparking me off. I've done some thinking this afternoon. I got enough out of that message this morning to keep me going for a week, thinking about worship and adoration. I believe that the highest form of worship is speechless. Like Dr. Tozer said, I can gaze and gaze and gaze. Remember an old hymn that says, I shall know him. I shall know him. When redeemed by his side I shall stand. I shall know him by the prints of the nails in his hand. A quick thing, I didn't plan a lot of stuff to say, just to kind of stir your minds up tonight. I don't know much about opera. I know that Verdi played his opera Aida in the great, what do you call it, in Milan, in Italy, in the opera house. And when he finished, the people clapped and cheered. They unhitched the horses from his carriage and let them go down as they pushed his chariot, they pushed his coach, and they pulled it down the street, yelling all the time, Verdi, 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 Verdi. That was 10 o'clock at night. They were still shouting at midnight. They were still shouting at 3 o'clock in the morning. He went to the window and there were people dancing in the street and shouting, Verdi, Verdi, Aida, Aida, and trying to sing as the Italians do. All because he wrote an opera? David talked about making vows. It's easy to make them in the heat of a meeting, and then tomorrow there's no atmosphere. You face the world of flesh and the devil. You won't gain an inch of ground in this meeting, but what the devil will try and get 5 inches back. So here's hundreds of people shouting, Verdi, Verdi. They're intoxicated with joy because he wrote an opera. Wait. There's a man. He's in a tomb. They put a stone on the tomb. They put wax over the stone. They put 16 soldiers. They put all the sin of the world there. They put every demon in hell there. Christianity hangs on one thing and not on the cross. Do you remember the chorus? Living he loved me, dying he saved me, buried he carried my sins far away, rising he justified freely forever. But David, I don't know if you've done it. I'd like to hear you do it. I've never once heard a sermon on the ascension. Jesus has to more than die. He has to ascend to the Father. Every demon in hell is nervous and shaking when he rises from the dead. Every angel is waiting to proclaim it. And suddenly the tomb broke. I don't know why we only sing as J.H. Jowett said, David. Why do we only sing up from the grave he arose every Easter time? We ought to sing it every Sunday. The most disappointing day in the life of Jesus, when he rose from the dead, nobody was there. Not one of the lepers he healed was there. Not blind Bartimaeus was there. Nicodemus wasn't there. His own mother wasn't there. How many times he told them, destroy this body and I'll rise again? And there was nobody there. Do you think he didn't feel it? The simple question, did you thank God today that he rose? Isn't it amazing? In a Christian country like America, the outstanding Sunday is not Easter Sunday or Christmas Sunday. It's what? What do you call it? Sunday? Football Sunday? Yes, Super Bowl Sunday. Everybody lives for Super Bowl Sunday. They spend far much time watching football than spend about Jesus. Up from the grave he arose. Do you know what I believe somebody needs to do? Somebody needs to go to America and preach the new birth. I don't believe 5% of all the Christians, Apostolic, Pentecostal, Methodist, Nazarenes are saved. And that's true of England. You go to your own pastor and say, Pastor, I want to ask you one question. Do you have the witness of the Spirit? John Wesley, one of the greatest men ever lived. Do you know what he did? I read it today. Charles Wesley's put John Wesley's theology to music. And one thing that Charles Wesley wrote, my heart is full of Christ, and longs this glorious message to come. Do you know what John Wesley says? I went to London, I went to Birmingham, I went to Manchester, I offered men Christ. We don't offer Christ, we offer them heaven. Do you want to go to heaven? Raise your hand. Do you want forgiveness of sins? Raise your hand. The one battle David didn't tell you, he had 3 cruel years of conviction of sin. Why? Because, as Paul said to Timothy, you've known the scriptures from being a child. Your mother knew it, your grandmother knew it. We took David and the family every time we could to England to conferences, and in Ireland we did, and in America we did. David didn't tell you he's a very skilled artist, he does wonderful painting. But his battle was, he wanted to design his own studio and follow, but he knew a scripture that stuck with him then, he often preaches now, is this: you're not your own, you bought with a price. So he dropped his brush and never picked it up since. And I appreciate that. But 300 years ago, there's a great preacher in Scotland by the name of Philip Doddridge. He wrote the greatest thing ever written outside the Bible on regeneration. And he wrote that lovely hymn we hardly ever sing anymore, with not too up and going. Happy day when Jesus washed my sins away. He taught me how to watch and pray and live rejoicing every day. Happy day. And he goes on to sing happy day. And when he got from his knees, he'd had wrestlings too, but when he got up, he put it on record forever. I've sung it hundreds of times. My granny sang it at the fireplace. 'Tis done, the great transaction's done. I am my Lord's, and he is mine. Don't come in my office unless you're living and walking with God. I'll put my finger right between your eyes and say, does Christ live in you? Well, I'm a Methodist. I didn't ask you that. I got the baptism. I didn't ask you that. Does Christ live in you? Does Christ weep through you? How do you think God looks down on a hell of a world like this? He looks on Bosnia tonight, running with blood. One of America's most gifted preachers, he doesn't count generations by 40, he counts them by 70. He says we had 70 years and then judgment came on America. What was it called? The Civil War. Then we had another 70 years, we had judgment. What was it called? It was called 1929, the crash of all the banks. Another 70 years goes to 1998 or 9. We're ready for another thunderous, devastating demolition that God gives. Nobody's going to escape. Our precious other son